I'll never forget the day my world collapsed. It was a Tuesday, one of those ordinary spring afternoons where nothing seems particularly special until it becomes the worst day of your life. I was sitting in our tiny apartment, my tiny apartment now, waiting for Derek to come home. We'd been together for 5 years. 5 years of building a life together, making plans, talking about marriage and kids, and growing old on some porch somewhere. We'd even picked out baby names during lazy Sunday mornings in bed, laughing about whether our daughter would have his eyes or my smile. The door opened, and Derek walked in with that look. You know the one. The look that says everything before a single word is spoken. His eyes wouldn't meet mine. His shoulders were tense. He clutched his gym bag like a shield. "We need to talk," he said. Those 4 words, the universal declaration of relationship execution. "Okay," I replied, my heart already sinking into my stomach. "What's going on?" Derek sat down on the edge of my worn couch. The same couch we'd bought at a thrift store when we first moved in together, joking about how we'd replace it when we made it big. That was back when struggling together felt romantic, like we were the heroes of our own underdog story. "I can't do this anymore, Maya," he said, finally looking at me. His eyes were dry. That's what hurt the most. No tears, no hesitation. This wasn't a hard decision for him. "I need more. I need someone who understands my ambitions. Someone on my level." "Your level?" I repeated, confused. "Derek, we're partners. We're building our future together." "Are we?" he challenged. "Because from where I'm standing, I'm the one with the career trajectory. I'm the one climbing the corporate ladder at Henderson and Associates. You're still working retail management at that boutique, making what, $38,000 a year?" The contempt in his voice made me flinch. I'd been proud of my job. I'd worked my way up from sales associate to store manager in 3 years. It wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it. I'd increased our location's revenue by 40%. I had a team of 12 people who respected me. "I'm working on my business degree at night," I reminded him, my voice small. "You said you supported that. You said we were a team." "That was before," Derek said, standing up and pacing. He did that when he was agitated, burned off nervous energy like a caged animal. "Before I realized what I could have, what I should have." "What are you talking about?" "I met someone," he said, not even having the decency to ease into it. "Her name is Victoria Ashford Chen." He said her name like it was supposed to impress me. When I just stared at him blankly, he actually laughed. A short, harsh sound. "Victoria Ashford Chen," he repeated, as in Ashford Chen Industries, as in the shipping and logistics empire, as in worth approximately $4.2 billion. My mouth went dry. "You're leaving me for a billionaire?" "I'm leaving you for someone who can match my ambitions," Derek corrected, but I could see the gleam in his eyes. He was proud of this, proud that some rich woman had noticed him. "Victoria is brilliant, Maya. She went to Princeton. She speaks 4 languages. She's 34 and already runs the Asian Pacific division of her family's company. She summers in Monaco and winters in Aspen. She's everything I'm not," I finished, my voice hollow. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Derek had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable, but it passed quickly. "Look, Maya, you're a nice person. You're pretty, you're sweet, you're adequate. But Victoria is extraordinary. She's cultured, sophisticated, connected. Dating her opens doors I didn't even know existed. Last week, I had drinks with a senior partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in the country, at Victoria's family's yacht club. Do you understand what that means for my career?" "So this is about money and connections," I said, anger starting to burn through the shock and hurt. "This is about building the life I deserve," Derek shot back. "I didn't spend 7 years in college and law school to end up married to a retail manager living in a crappy apartment. Victoria and I went to the opera last night. The opera, Maya, in a private box, with champagne that costs more per bottle than your monthly paycheck. That's the world I'm meant for." "When did this start?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters to me." He sighed, an impatient sound. 4 months ago. We met when Henderson and Associates represented her company in an acquisition. She asked me to dinner to discuss the case. One thing led to another. 4 months. He'd been with her for 4 months. While I'd been planning our future, picking up extra shifts to help save for a down payment on a house, taking night classes to build a better future for us, he'd been wining and dining with a billionaire heiress. I loved you, I said, past tense, because I could feel it dying in real time. I thought we were in this together. We were together when it made sense, Derek said, checking his watch. A new Rolex, I noticed suddenly. How had I missed that? But people grow apart, Maya. I've outgrown this. He gestured vaguely at our apartment, at me, at our entire life together. Victoria's driver is waiting downstairs. I'm taking my things today. You're not even staying the night? The words came out as a whimper, and I hated myself for it. Victoria booked us a couple's suite at the Grandview Resort for the week, he said, already walking toward our bedroom. We're flying to Paris on Friday. She wants me to meet her family at their estate in Provence. I sat there, frozen, as the man I'd loved for 5 years packed up his life and walked out of mine. He took his clothes, his laptop, his law books. He even took the coffee maker, the one I'd bought him for his birthday 2 years ago. At the door, he paused. For a moment, I thought he might apologize, might show some shred of the person I'd fallen in love with in college. For what it's worth, Maya, he said, I hope you find someone at your level, someone who's content with this. Another dismissive gesture. You're a decent person. You deserve someone decent. Then he was gone. I sat on that thrift store couch in my tiny apartment and cried. I cried for the 5 years I'd invested. I cried for the future I'd imagined. I cried for every time I'd picked up an extra shift, every dinner I'd skipped to save money, every sacrifice I'd made thinking we were building something together. But most of all, I cried because a small, poisonous voice in my head whispered that maybe he was right. Maybe I was just adequate. Maybe I didn't deserve more than this cramped apartment and my retail job and my night classes. Maybe I was foolish to dream bigger. I cried all night, and when the sun came up on Wednesday morning, something inside me had changed. I called in sick to work that Wednesday, then Thursday. By Friday, my store manager Cheryl was calling me every 2 hours, worried. I let it go to voicemail. I spent 3 days in that apartment, oscillating between crying jags and numb staring at the ceiling. I scrolled through Derek's social media, a form of self-torture I couldn't seem to stop. He'd already updated his relationship status, already posted photos from Paris. Victoria Ashford Chen was beautiful in that effortless way only the extremely wealthy can manage. Perfect bone structure, expertly maintained blonde hair, designer clothes that fit like they were made for her body, because they probably were. In one photo, they stood in front of the Eiffel Tower. Derek's arm was around her waist, and he was looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. The caption read, "Sometimes you don't find love, it finds you. Blessed Paris. New beginnings." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. On Saturday morning, my best friend Zoe showed up with a key I'd given her for emergencies. She took one look at me. Unwashed hair, 3-day-old pajamas, empty ice cream containers on the coffee table, and dragged me into the shower. "Enough," she said firmly, sitting on the toilet lid while I stood under the hot water. "I let you have your breakdown, but Maya Rodriguez doesn't stay down. That's not who you are." "Maybe it is now," I said miserably. Maybe Derek was right. Maybe I'm just not enough. "Derek is a social climbing asshole with the moral backbone of a chocolate eclair," Zoe snapped. "And you're going to let him win? You're going to let him make you believe you're less than you are because he traded up for a trust fund?" "She's not just a trust fund," I said, hating how defeated I sounded. "She's educated and successful and—" "And you're not?" Zoe interrupted. "Maya, you're 27 years old. You've put yourself through college while working full-time. You're 3 semesters away from your business degree. You've increased your store's revenue by 40% in a down economy. You've got a brain that never stops working and a work ethic that puts everyone I know to shame. The only difference between you and Victoria Ashford Chen is that she was born on third base and thought she hit a triple. I turned off the water and grabbed a towel. It doesn't feel that way right now. That's because you're heartbroken, Zoe said, her voice softening. And that's okay. You loved him. He betrayed you. You're allowed to be devastated, but you're not allowed to let him define your worth. I looked at myself in the foggy mirror. Pale skin, red-rimmed eyes, hollow expression. I don't know how to move forward from this, I admitted. One step at a time, Zoe said. And the first step is getting out of this apartment. Come stay with me for a few days, clear your head, get some perspective. I did. Zoe lived in a slightly nicer apartment across town, one bedroom instead of a studio, a kitchen that wasn't a glorified closet, windows that didn't face a brick wall. Her roommate, Tasha, was a financial advisor who worked from home most days. On my third night there, Tasha found me at the kitchen table at 2 a.m, laptop open, staring at spreadsheets. "Can't sleep?" she asked, pouring herself a glass of water. "I keep thinking about money," I admitted. "Derek left me for someone rich, and the worst part is, I can't even be mad about the logic. Money matters. Financial security matters. I've been so focused on scraping by, on just surviving, that I never thought about actually building wealth." Tasha sat down across from me. "What are you working on?" "Trying to figure out my finances. I can barely afford the apartment on my own. I'll need to find a roommate or move somewhere cheaper, which means starting over, again." "Or," Tasha said carefully, "you could see this as an opportunity." An opportunity to be broke and alone? An opportunity to rebuild your life the way you want it, not the way Derek wanted it, not compromising or sacrificing for someone else's dreams. What would you do, Maya, if money wasn't an issue, if you could do anything? I'd never really let myself think about it. There had always been some constraint. Derek's student loans, the rent, the car payment, his career needs taking precedence over mine. "I'd finish my degree," I said slowly. "Full-time, not night classes. I'd focus on marketing and entrepreneurship, and I've always had this idea. For a business." "Tell me." It felt silly saying it out loud, but Tasha was looking at me with genuine interest. "Sustainable fashion consulting. There's this huge gap in the market. People want to be eco-conscious, but they don't know how to build a wardrobe that's both sustainable and actually stylish and affordable. Most sustainable fashion brands are either frumpy or so expensive that only rich people can afford to be ethical. I've been thinking about it for years. A consulting service that helps people transition to sustainable fashion at their price point, plus eventually a curated marketplace connecting them with affordable, ethical brands." "That's actually brilliant," Tasha said, leaning forward. "Have you done any market research?" "Some, mostly late at night when Derek was asleep. I have spreadsheets, a preliminary business plan, some mock-ups for a website, but it's just a dream. I don't have the capital to start something like that." "How much would you need?" I pulled up my calculations. "To do it right, about $50,000 for the first year. Website development, business registration, initial marketing, living expenses while I get it off the ground." Tasha was quiet for a moment. "What if I told you there are ways to get that capital? Grants, small business loans, micro investors. I work with people on this stuff every day." "I don't have collateral. My credit is okay, but not great. And I've got student loans and—" "Maya," Tasha interrupted gently, "stop telling me why you can't. Start thinking about how you can." That conversation changed my life. The next morning, Tasha introduced me to her world, a world I didn't know existed. Small business grants for women entrepreneurs, microfinancing platforms, business plan competitions, crowdfunding, angel investors looking for diverse portfolios. "Here's the thing nobody tells you," Tasha explained over coffee. "There's actually a lot of money out there for people with good ideas, but you have to know where to look and you have to be willing to work for it. Your business plan needs to be flawless. Your pitch needs to be compelling. You need to be confident, prepared, and professional." "I don't know if I can do that," I admitted. "I manage a clothing store. I don't know how to talk to investors." "So you learn," Tasha said simply. "YouTube is free. The library is free. There are free business development courses online. The Small Business Administration offers free consulting. You just have to be willing to put in the work. So I did. I moved back into my apartment. My name was on the lease, and I wasn't going to run away from my life. I found a roommate through Zoe, a nursing student named Priya who needed a quiet place to study and could cover half the rent. I kept my job at the boutique, but I approached it differently. Instead of just managing, I started really studying the business. I analyzed our inventory turnover rates, our customer demographics, our profit margins. I started making suggestions to the owner, Colleen, a woman in her 50s who'd owned the store for 20 years. What if we added a sustainable fashion section? I proposed during a meeting. Market research shows that 73% of millennials are willing to pay more for sustainable products. We could partner with ethical brands, market it heavily on social media, tap into a growing demographic. Colleen was skeptical, but she let me run a small pilot program. I curated a selection of sustainable brands, created an Instagram campaign, and hosted a green fashion event at the store. We sold out in 3 weeks. How did you do this? Colleen asked, looking at the numbers. Research, strategy, and understanding the customer, I said. This is what I want to do, Colleen. Not just for one store, but as a full-scale business. She studied me for a long moment. You're going to leave me, aren't you? Eventually, I admitted. But not until I'm ready, and not without helping you build this into something sustainable. Colleen smiled. Then let's do it right. I'll pay you to develop a full sustainable fashion program for the store. Consider it a freelance consulting contract. It'll look good on your portfolio, and you'll get real-world experience building your business model. That contract paid me an extra $15,000 over 6 months. I put every penny into savings. At night, after my shifts, I worked on my business plan. I took free online courses in digital marketing, financial management, and entrepreneurship. I joined networking groups for women in business. I attended every free seminar and workshop I could find. I learned how to build a website. I taught myself basic graphic design. I studied successful, sustainable fashion brands, what they did right, what they did wrong, where the gaps were, and I applied for everything. Every grant, every competition, every opportunity I could find. I got rejected. A lot. We've chosen to move forward with other applicants. Your business model, while interesting, doesn't align with our funding priorities. We received over 500 applications for 10 spots. Each rejection stung, but each rejection also made me better. I refined my pitch. I strengthened my business plan. I learned from every no. 6 months after Derek left, I won my first small grant, $5,000 from a local women's entrepreneurship program. It wasn't much, but it was validation, proof that someone believed in my idea. I took myself out to dinner that night. Nothing fancy, just a nice meal at a restaurant I'd always wanted to try. I sat there alone, eating my pasta and drinking my wine, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Pride. I was doing this. By myself. For myself. I called Zoe from the restaurant bathroom, crying happy tears. I won, I told her. $5,000. It's real, Zoe. My business might actually be real. Of course it's real, Zoe said, and I could hear her smiling. You're brilliant and you're a fighter. I never doubted you for a second. That grant led to others. I won 3rd place in a business plan competition, $10,000. I launched a successful Kickstarter campaign that raised $18,000. I worked with Tasha to secure a small business loan backed by the SBA, $20,000 at a reasonable interest rate. Piece by piece, I built my capital. But more than that, I built my knowledge, my skills, my confidence. I quit my job at the boutique after a year. Colleen cried when I told her, but said she understood. You're going to do amazing things, Maya, she said. Just promise me you'll remember me when you're famous. I launched my business, Verde Style Consulting, 18 months after Derek walked out. The website went live on a Tuesday. I posted about it on social media. I reached out to every contact I'd made through networking. I offered free initial consultations. I got 3 clients the first week. By the end of the first month, I had 15. The first year of running Verde Style Consulting was brutal. I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I lived on coffee and determination, but it was working. My business model was simple but effective. I offered tiered consulting services. Bronze level was a simple wardrobe audit and sustainable shopping guide, affordable for most people at $200. Silver level included personalized styling sessions and a curated shopping list, $750. Gold level was comprehensive, including closet organization, personal shopping, ongoing styling support, and access to my exclusive vendor relationships, $2,500. But my real innovation was the Verde Style Marketplace, an online platform where I partnered with sustainable fashion brands to offer curated collections. I took a commission on every sale, and I used my marketing background to drive traffic. I also wrote blog posts about sustainable fashion, style tips, the real cost of fast fashion. I made YouTube videos showing people how to build capsule wardrobes. I was active on Instagram, showing real outfits for real people at real price points. My content went viral. A video I made about how to look expensive on a budget using sustainable fashion got 2 million views. Suddenly, I had a platform. Brands started reaching out to me for partnerships. I was careful, selective. I only worked with brands that met strict ethical standards, fair wages, sustainable materials, transparent supply chains. By the end of year 1, Verde Style Consulting had generated $180,000 in revenue. After expenses, I'd netted about $65,000 in profit. It was modest by some standards, but it was mine. I'd built it from nothing. Year 2, I scaled up. I hired 2 employees, recent fashion school graduates who were passionate about sustainability. I expanded my marketplace. I launched an online course teaching people how to build sustainable wardrobes, $97, and it sold thousands of copies. Revenue hit $450,000. Profit, $175,000. Year 3, everything exploded. A major lifestyle influencer wore an outfit I'd styled and tagged Verde Style in her post. Within 24 hours, my website crashed from traffic. We processed over 3,000 orders in a week. I hired a proper team, 6 full-time employees, including a tech person, to handle our website and a business manager to handle operations, so I could focus on strategy and growth. I launched a clothing line, sustainable basics manufactured in factories I'd personally vetted. Simple, classic pieces designed to last years, not seasons. The line sold out in 3 days. I was invited to speak at conferences about sustainable business practices. I was featured in Forbes' 30 Under 30 list. Major retailers started asking me to consult for them. Revenue hit $2.1 million. Profit, $680,000. I was 30 years old, and I was building an empire. But here's what nobody tells you about success. It doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't fill the holes that betrayal leaves. Late at night, when the work was done and the team had gone home, and I was alone in my new apartment, a nice 1-bedroom in a good neighborhood, nothing extravagant, I still thought about Derek. I still wondered if he thought about me, if he ever regretted his choice, if he ever saw my success and felt even a fraction of what I'd felt when he left. I hadn't stalked his social media in over a year. I'd blocked him, moved on, focused on building my life. But sometimes, in weak moments, I wondered. That wondering ended on a Wednesday afternoon in November. I was at a business networking event at the Grandview Hotel, the same hotel Derek had taken Victoria to on their first trip together, though I tried not to think about that. I'd been invited as a speaker on a panel about women in sustainable business. I was wearing one of my own designs, a perfectly tailored blazer in organic cotton, paired with wide-leg pants and understated jewelry. My hair was professionally styled. My makeup was flawless. I looked successful because I was successful. The panel went well. I spoke about building a business from scratch, about the importance of authentic branding, about creating profit with purpose. People listened. They asked questions. They wanted my card. Afterwards, during the networking reception, I was talking to a potential investor when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Maya. I turned around, and there he was. Derek. He looked older. Not bad exactly, but there were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. His hair was slightly thinner. He was wearing an expensive suit. Tom Ford, probably, but it fit him poorly, like he'd gained weight recently. Derek, I said neutrally. Hello. I saw you speak, he said, and there was something strange in his expression. You were great, really great. Thank you. An awkward silence stretched between us. The investor I'd been talking to tactfully excused herself, leaving us alone. So, Derek said, clearly uncomfortable. Verde Style Consulting. I've seen your ads. You've done really well for yourself. I have, I agreed simply. I heard you were featured in Forbes. That's amazing, Maya. Really. Thank you, I said again. I wasn't going to make this easy for him. Look, He started, then stopped. Can we talk? Privately? Every instinct told me to say no, to walk away. But a part of me, the part that had spent years wondering, needed to hear what he had to say. 5 minutes, I said. We moved to a quieter corner of the reception area. Derek ordered a whiskey from the bar. His third, I noticed from the flush in his cheeks. I stuck with my club soda. I made a mistake, Derek said abruptly. Leaving you. I made a huge mistake. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. In my fantasies, I was cutting and dismissive, or coldly indifferent, or graciously forgiving. In reality, I just felt tired. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because it's true. Victoria and I... He laughed bitterly. It didn't work out. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I mostly meant it. Are you? Derek challenged. Because you should be celebrating. You were right about everything. She didn't love me, Maya. She loved the idea of me. The successful lawyer boyfriend she could show off to her friends. The second I stopped being useful to her family's business interests, she lost interest. What happened? I wasn't ambitious enough, Derek said, the words dripping with irony. Can you believe that? I thought I was ambitious. I worked 80-hour weeks at Henderson and Associates. I made junior partner. But Victoria's family expected more. They wanted me to go into politics, to use my law degree to further their business interests. When I said I actually liked practicing law, that I didn't want to be their puppet, Victoria's father sat me down and explained that I was failing to maximize my potential. He took a long drink. Victoria agreed with him. She started making comments about my limited vision, about how I was small-minded. She started comparing me to her ex-boyfriends, all trust fund brats or business tycoons. 6 months ago, she broke up with me, said she needed someone more aligned with her trajectory. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad for him. I'm sorry that happened to you, I said. I really am. But Derek, why are you telling me this? Because I realized something, he said, looking at me intently. I had everything I needed with you. We were partners. We were building something real. And I threw it away for what? Money? Status? A woman who saw me as a trophy? Yes, I said simply. You did. I was an idiot. Yes, you were. Maya, He reached for my hand. I pulled away. I was hoping maybe we could try again. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve another chance, but we were so good together. We could be good again. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man I'd loved for 5 years. This man who'd called me adequate and walked out with a Rolex and a plane ticket to Paris. And I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no love, just a distant sort of pity. No, I said gently. No? He looked genuinely shocked, like he couldn't imagine me turning him down. No, I repeated. Derek, you didn't just break my heart. You broke my trust. You made me question my worth. You looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't enough, that I would never be enough. And you know what? You did me the biggest favor of my life. Maya, you leaving forced me to rebuild myself. Not for you, not for anyone else, but for me. I had to figure out who I was without you, what I wanted, what I was capable of, and I discovered that I'm capable of so much more than I ever dreamed. I stood up, gathering my things. I built a successful business from nothing. I have a team of amazing people who believe in my vision. I have financial security, real security, not dependent on anyone else. I have a life I'm proud of, and I did it all without you. I know, and that's exactly why. And you know what the best part is? I interrupted. I don't need your validation anymore. I don't need you to tell me I'm enough. I know I'm enough. I'm more than enough. Derek's face crumpled. So that's it? You won't even consider? I won't, I said firmly, because I deserve someone who saw my worth when I was working retail and taking night classes, someone who believed in me when I was struggling, someone who stayed. Maya, please. I hope you find happiness, Derek. I really do. I hope you find someone who loves you for who you are, not what you can do for them. But that someone isn't me. Not anymore. I walked away, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't look back. The thing about building a successful business is that people notice. And in our hyper-connected world, people talk. 3 weeks after my encounter with Derek, I received an email that made me laugh out loud. It was from Victoria Ashford Chen's personal assistant. Ms. Ashford Chen has become aware of your work in sustainable fashion and is interested in discussing a potential consulting arrangement for the Ashford Chen Corporate Wardrobe Refresh Initiative. She is prepared to offer significant compensation for your expertise. I stared at the email for a long time. Part of me wanted to decline immediately, to tell Victoria Ashford Chen exactly where she could put her significant compensation. But that would be petty, and I'd built my business on professionalism, not pettiness. I responded with my standard corporate consulting rate, $50,000 for a comprehensive consultation and implementation plan. It was 3 times what I usually charged, but if Victoria Ashford Chen wanted my expertise, she was going to pay for it. Her assistant accepted immediately. The meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday at Ashford Chen Industries headquarters, a gleaming 40-story tower in the financial district. I showed up in another one of my designs, a power dress that had been featured in Vogue's New Guard of Sustainable Fashion spread. I looked like I belonged there. Victoria's assistant led me to a top-floor conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Victoria arrived 5 minutes later, all business in a designer suit that probably cost more than my first car. She was still beautiful. That hadn't changed. But there was a hardness around her eyes, a tension in her jaw. Ms. Rodriguez, she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. Thank you for coming. Ms. Ashford Chen, I replied, shaking her hand firmly. I understand you're interested in a sustainability consultation. We sat down, and Victoria outlined her needs. Ashford Chen Industries employed over 15,000 people worldwide. She wanted to transition their corporate wardrobe program, the clothes provided for executives, uniforms for customer-facing staff, promotional materials, to sustainable sources. The board is pushing for better ESG scores, Victoria explained. Environmental, social, and governance metrics. Our current clothing suppliers have come under fire for labor practices. We need to transition to fully ethical sources without compromising on quality or brand image. I took notes, asked questions, outlined what I could provide. Your proposal is comprehensive, Victoria said, after I'd presented my plan. I see why you've become so successful. Thank you. I also understand, Victoria said carefully, that you have a personal connection to someone I used to date. Derek Morgan. Here we go, I thought. I did, I said calmly. We were together for 5 years. He left me for you. Victoria had the grace to look uncomfortable. I didn't realize he was in a serious relationship when we met. He told me you were on the rocks, that it was already over. It wasn't. I gathered that eventually. Victoria sighed, and for a moment, she looked less like a billionaire CEO and more like a woman who'd made mistakes. For what it's worth, Derek and I didn't work out either. I know. He told me. Did he? Victoria looked surprised, then thoughtful. I suppose he's trying to get back together with you. It wasn't a question. He tried, I confirmed. I declined. Good, Victoria said, surprising me. He doesn't deserve you. We looked at each other for a moment, 2 women who'd been connected by the same man, who'd both been disappointed by him in different ways. Ms. Ashford Chen, call me Victoria. Victoria, I said, I want to be direct with you. I can do this job, and I can do it well. My personal history with Derek won't affect my professionalism, but I need to know. Are you hiring me because I'm the best person for this job or because you feel guilty? Victoria smiled. A real smile this time, not the corporate mask. I'm hiring you because you're the best person for the job. The guilt is just a bonus. She leaned forward. I made mistakes with Derek. I used him, if I'm being honest. I thought having a handsome, successful lawyer boyfriend would annoy my parents, who'd been trying to set me up with business heirs. I didn't consider his feelings, or yours, or anyone's really. I was selfish. Why are you telling me this? Because I've been watching your career, Victoria said. I've seen what you've built. You started with nothing and created something remarkable. You did it ethically, authentically. You didn't take shortcuts or use people, and I admire that. My family has been wealthy for 3 generations. I've never had to build something from scratch. I've never had to prove myself the way you have. She pulled out a folder. This is my official offer, $50,000 for the consultation, as discussed. But I'd also like to propose a partnership. Ashford Chen Industries has been looking to diversify our investment portfolio. I'd like to offer Verde Style Consulting a significant capital investment, $5 million for a 20% equity stake. I nearly choked on my water. $5 million? Your company is valued at approximately $8 million based on current revenue and growth projections, Victoria said. I'm offering above market value because I believe you're going to be worth significantly more in the next 5 years, and because Ashford Chen Industries wants to be known for investing in ethical, female-led businesses. You'd be our flagship sustainability investment. My hands were shaking as I looked at the term sheet. $5 million. With that kind of capital, I could expand nationally, maybe internationally. I could open physical stores. I could invest in my own manufacturing. I could scale up everything I'd been planning. There's no obligation, Victoria said. Take the term sheet, have your lawyer review it. Think about whether you want to work with me. I know our history is complicated. It is, I agreed. But business is business. I spent the next week having my lawyer review the contract, consulting with Tasha about the financial implications, discussing it with my team. The terms were fair, exceptionally fair. Victoria would be a silent investor, no operational control. I'd retain full creative and strategic authority. I accepted. The announcement went out 2 weeks later. Ashford Chen Industries invests $5 million in Verde Style Consulting, signaling major push into sustainable fashion. The press coverage was massive. My phone didn't stop ringing for days. Every major business publication wanted an interview. My website traffic increased by 300%. And yes, Derek saw it. Of course he did. Everyone saw it. He sent me an email, just one line. I'm proud of you, Maya. You always deserved more than I could give you. I deleted it without responding. With Victoria's investment, Verde Style Consulting transformed into Verde Style Group, a comprehensive, sustainable fashion empire. We opened our first flagship store in downtown, 3 floors of curated sustainable fashion, a styling studio, and a cafe serving organic fair trade coffee. It was beautiful, Instagram-worthy, and profitable from day one. We expanded the online marketplace, partnering with over 200 ethical brands worldwide. Our platform became the go-to destination for sustainable fashion. We Millionaire launched Verde Academy, online courses and certifications for aspiring sustainable fashion professionals. Thousands of people enrolled. We started a consulting division that worked with major retailers to transition to sustainable practices. We charged premium rates and had a 6-month waiting list. By the time I turned 32, Verde Style Group was generating $28 million in annual revenue with profit margins that made investors drool. I hired 120 people. I paid them well, above market rate, with excellent benefits and profit sharing. My team was diverse, talented, and deeply committed to our mission. I bought a house, not a mansion, nothing ostentatious, but a beautiful 3-bedroom craftsman in a good neighborhood with a garden where I could grow vegetables. It was mine, paid in cash. I drove a Tesla, practical and aligned with my values, but still nice enough to feel like success. I traveled Paris, Tokyo, Copenhagen, studying fashion markets, meeting with suppliers, speaking at conferences. I dated, casually at first, then more seriously. I met Nathan, an environmental engineer who worked for a nonprofit at a fundraiser. He was kind, intelligent, passionate about his work. He thought what I did was amazing. He cooked me dinner and listened when I talked about my day and never once made me feel like I was too much or not enough. We'd been together for 8 months, and it was easy in a way that my relationship with Derek never was. Life was good, more than good. Life was everything I'd dreamed of and things I hadn't known to dream of. 2 years after Victoria's investment, Verde Style Group went public. We listed on the NASDAQ with an initial valuation of $150 million. I retained 55% of the shares, meaning my net worth on paper was suddenly $82.5 million. $82 million. The girl who'd cried on a thrift store couch while her boyfriend walked out was now worth more than most people would earn in multiple lifetimes. The day we went public, I was on CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business. Everyone wanted to know the story. Single woman builds ethical fashion empire from nothing, becomes one of the youngest female CEOs to take a company public. I told them the truth: hard work, strategic planning, a great team, and the willingness to bet on myself when no one else would. That evening, there was a celebration at the NASDAQ. My team was there, my family, Zoe and Tasha, Nathan, Victoria, investors, friends, mentors who'd helped me along the way. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I saw you on TV. You did it, Maya. You really did it. I always knew you would. Derek." I stared at the text for a long moment. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell him that no, he didn't always know I would. He thought I was adequate and not worth his time. He left me for someone richer and told me I wasn't enough. But that's not who I was anymore. I was the woman who'd taken the worst day of her life and turned it into fuel, who'd transformed heartbreak into ambition, who'd proven that being underestimated is just motivation in disguise. I deleted the text without responding. Nathan appeared at my elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. "You okay?" he asked, reading my expression. "Yeah," I said, smiling up at him. "I really am." We raised our glasses as my team gathered around, laughing and celebrating and planning our next moves. Someone proposed a toast. "To Maya, who showed us all that the best revenge is massive success." Everyone cheered. But as I looked around at the life I'd built, the people I'd lifted up along the way, the company that was changing the fashion industry for the better, I realized something. This wasn't about revenge. It had never really been about revenge. This was about proving something to myself, about discovering that I was capable of more than I'd ever imagined, about learning that my worth wasn't determined by who loved me or who left me, but by what I built and who I became. Derek leaving me for a rich woman wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to me. It was the best thing, because it forced me to become the rich woman, not just in money, though that was nice, but rich in confidence, in purpose, in self-knowledge, rich in relationships that mattered, in work that fulfilled me, in a life that was authentically mine. I'd been so focused on becoming richer than Victoria Ashford Chen, on proving Derek wrong, on showing everyone who doubted me that they'd made a mistake. But standing there in that moment, champagne in hand, surrounded by people who'd believed in me and helped me and celebrated with me, I realized the truth. I wasn't competing with anyone anymore. I'd already won. Verde Style Group continued to grow. We expanded internationally, opening stores in London, Paris, Tokyo, and Sydney. Our annual revenue hit $200 million. My personal net worth crossed $500 million. But the numbers weren't what mattered most anymore. We'd certified over 10,000 people through Verde Academy, creating a whole new generation of sustainable fashion professionals. We'd helped 300 companies transition to ethical practices, impacting over 1 million workers worldwide. We'd proven that profit and purpose weren't opposites. They were partners. I married Nathan in a small ceremony in our garden. We bought a second home in the mountains where we escaped on weekends to disconnect and remember what mattered. I started a foundation providing microloans and business training to women entrepreneurs in developing countries, paying forward all the help I'd received. I occasionally saw Derek around. The city wasn't that big, and we traveled in some overlapping circles. He'd eventually found a nice woman, a teacher, and they seemed happy. We'd nod politely when we passed each other at events, but we never talked. There was nothing left to say. Victoria and I became unlikely friends. She'd stepped back from day-to-day operations at Ashford Chen Industries to focus on impact investing, and we collaborated on several projects. She never married Derek, never married anyone, as far as I knew. "I'm married to my work," she'd joke, but I think she'd learned the same lesson I had, that you have to be whole yourself before you can be part of someone else's life. One evening, 5 years after Verde Style Group went public, I was home with Nathan, cooking dinner and laughing about something silly one of our kids, twin girls, 3 years old, had said at daycare. My phone rang. "Zoe, turn on CNBC," she said. "Why? Just do it." I turned on the TV. There was a segment about the top 50 self-made women in business, and there I was, number 7. Maya Rodriguez, CEO of Verde Style Group. Net worth, $520 million. Built a sustainable fashion empire from a single consulting client to a global brand in under a decade. "That's you, Mommy," one of my daughters squealed, pointing at the TV. I looked at my reflection in the screen. Not the TV version, but the real me. Hair in a messy bun, wearing leggings and one of my old Verde-style prototypes, flour on my cheek from helping Nathan make pizza dough. I looked happy, and I was, because the best revenge wasn't becoming richer than the rich woman who took your man. The best revenge was building a life so full, so meaningful, so authentically yours that you forgot you ever wanted revenge at all.